What is up, Stoppage Time fans? This is your host Cliff, and I'm gonna do a little bit of business before we introduce our great guest today. We're sponsored by the great All U of A Cast, my team, my awesome team, and by Striped Tarts Apparel, the official clothing line of AJC. But without further ado, we have a very special guest. We have our friend Anthony from Interworldwide. Anthony, how are we doing?
It's a pleasure to be here, man, to be here with you. Cliff, thank you for inviting me, man. Let's talk some culture.
Oh, nothing would make me happier. And to mention, he's got like the best accent in the world. So like, let's be honest, like an Australian accent is the best. So we love that. So we'll get into it. The first match I want to get into was your team, Inter, coming back from a 2-0 deficit on the Empoli match. And they came back. They beat the team 4-2. Give me some of your thoughts on that match and kind of a breakdown of what you were seeing from the team early on and how they were able to bring it back.
It was obviously a really, really poor start. I think the boys at the moment are taking the pitch knowing full well in the back of their head that they've surrendered the driving seat to the title race, not once, not twice. I think most Inter fans can pinpoint 3 moments throughout the season where we could have taken full throttle advantage, but we failed to do that. And those nerves and jitters really come into play, especially at the start of a fixture where you're trying to still get ready, still get warm into the game. And we've seen a habit this season of us putting one foot forward too much in the opening stages of the match and getting caught on the counter. And poetically, just like any Inter fan knows, you always got to watch out for your own players or your former players. And just like the script was written, Pinamonti gets on the score sheet in the opening 10 minutes. And the second goal on the counter-attack was actually that much quicker that most people that were watching the game live didn't even get to see the goal in real time because beIN Sports didn't even have the camera going on it at the time. They were still focusing on running a replay. And before you know it, we're watching someone else celebrate for Empoli. And I'm like, that's not Pinamonti. And it's 2-0 in the space of 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. At that moment, all you need to do is go on Twitter and have a look at every other WhatsApp chat that have got Inter fans in it. And that was it. That was the concealer right there. It was very important to get back into it before halftime. We got not only 1, but 2 goals. And as soon as we got the second, I knew the 3 points was on the horizon. Unfortunately, though, as soon as I'm sure we're going to segue into in this video, it's not in Inter's hands. So even these victories that we've managed to pick up, especially this one today, it's not without a grain of salt. And it's not without that little, pinch in your shoulder saying, oh, well, I guess we're still going to have to wait and see what Milan does. And at the moment, Milan is doing the business.
Yeah, I think that's a really good recap of that match as a whole. I wasn't really surprised. I was kind of pulling for Empoli to win, if I'm being completely honest. But I mean, Inter is just being class as they have been this season for the most part. They have just such a good build-up. They're always like a well-oiled machine when they're on their game, and they really proved it when they just came back in force and just scored 4 goals like that. But if we look at the table, they're only 2 points down right now as it stands. And their schedule is the easiest, I would say, out of the teams that are in contention. So from you as an Inter fan, how confident are you about still getting the Scudetto? If you had to give me a percentage, what would you say in terms of confidence right now?
So I know that we've got the easier fixture list, but that sort of notion goes out the window when you're down to the last 2 or 3 games. Like when you're really down to the points of 0s and 1s and trying to win the Scudetto, match day 35, 6, 7, 8. It really doesn't matter who you're playing. You could be playing someone like Napoli or Juve who've locked in their position, right? And have barely anything to play for. Just like the really disappointing outfit that you turned out against Genoa. That was a classic example of you guys thinking that we don't have much to play for. We've scored an early goal, but no, there was time left for a team with still everything to play for to do something. And that's what Genoa did. Best believe that's what's going to happen when we go to Sardinia against Cagliari. They went into that dressing room positive after Salernitana. Yeah, they didn't win, but they got a 98th minute goal. They were basically relegated up until the 98th minute. Now they've got that last little kick up the cooler, and we're going to be the ones that have to cop that. Bear in mind, we still have this Coppa Italia game against you guys on Thursday, which I think a lot of Inter fans are now, after the Milan win against Verona, looking at that Coppa game, me included. I made a video on my Interworldwide channel saying that Coppa Italia game is now more important. It's now more important to win that trophy than it was 3 or 4 weeks ago because we don't have that Scudetto to fall back on. And every fan knows if you win the league title but you don't win the cup, who cares? But if you're running all season as a front runner in the league, and you end the season without picking up the league or without picking up the cup, it can only be seen as a massive disappointment. I won't say that the season is a complete failure if we don't pick up the Coppa or the Scudetto, because granted, everything that happened in the offseason, all the departures, new coach and whatnot, it's not fair to say, oh, you got to the final and you got to match day 38, but you didn't win. That's not 100% fair, because you were there. We went the 99% of the way. If you're asking for a percentage of how much we could win the Scudetto, I would say we're flirting with about 25 to 30% now, maybe low 20s. I mean, I know I've said in chats that it's down about 5 to 10, but
Wow.
to be more realistic, it's more so I watch Milan very closely, and the way that they played yesterday when they went a goal down, the same way they played when they went a goal down against Lazio, they just look like nothing's going to be good enough for them, Cliff, unless they clinch this one. And that's what I'm banking them doing against Atalanta and Sassuolo. If we can pull off a miracle, that's great. But I would say Milan are fully locked in now. Couple of pit stops and they're there.
Yeah, you hit a lot of things. And I'm probably going to start with the first thing you did mention. Well, I'll touch on Inter. I think the percentage-wise for me, I still think they have a pretty good shot. I wouldn't say it's a 50-50. I'd probably say like 35-40, because I still think they have the quality there. I still think they have the quality to beat those teams. But Cagliari's a trap game. That is a trap game, like you said, because that can be a really difficult environment to play in Sardinia, as we know. They've been giving a lot of teams trouble. So that's kind of what I think on Inter. But you mentioned Juve against Genoa. Let's touch quickly upon that. Juve have clinched top four. Obviously, on this channel, we'd like to talk more about City as a whole and not really talk about Juve. It's more of our AJC channel. But briefly touching on it, do you think they're just kind of in cruise control at this point because they made top four and they just want to get through the season?
We're talking about Milan.
No, for Juve Genoa. I'm sorry.
Juve Genoa. Sorry. Yeah, for Juve, it was. We knew that you'd make top four just due to the inconsistency of the teams below you. But I think that there's a lot of revamping that needs to be done in that squad in terms of who knows where they belong and the weight of the badge on the front of the chest. You know, I dislike Juve more than any club in the world, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like you guys aren't the biggest club in Italy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like you don't almost represent this country to the European clubs, or at least in the last 10 years. Yeah. So it's very, very important. And I'm not going to compare you to the Manchester United situation, because that's a whole other shitstorm. But let's not pretend like there aren't some elements in the Juventus squad that can be, related to what's going on at Manchester United. There's a lot of players in your squad that are stealing a wage because they just don't belong at a club as big and prestigious and as high expectation-wise as Juve. And whether or not it's players like Dybala or Bernardeschi that might not be coming back, I think that it's very, very important for management at Juventus to really get back down to who belongs there, who's willing to take it forward with Allegri, and most importantly, who's going to suffer with you guys for the next 2 or 3 years. Anybody who's there just because they're stealing a wage, or anybody who's at Juventus just because it's Juventus, has to leave, because there needs to be a point in time now where the power has to shift back to the clubs, because we're living in an era, Cliff, where players and player agents are dominating control, and it's starting to make the world of football a little bit sick. And unless the clubs really start to take a stance, which I think your new director, Arrivabene, is doing quite well. If I was in charge, I would have still done a little more to keep Paulo Dybala, just because I wouldn't be trusting someone like Beppe Marotta. I mean, I trust him with my life, but we know that Beppe Marotta is a spiteful dude, and he's going to come for Dybala 90% out of spite, 10% for footballing reasons. Yep. So to make a long story short, your game against Genoa was almost like a perfect match day 36 for where you guys are at this point of the season. Better on paper, good enough on the day to win, switched off at a moment where Genoa was still playing football, and the disaster class at the back was just a resemblance of players that also don't belong there. And you can probably say it better than me, but players like Alexandro, no legs, no ability left. Adrian Rabiot, I mean, I said it to Berto and Joe from your channel as well. Like, trust me, this ain't an anti-Juve thing for me. This is an anti-Rabiot thing for me. I've never liked him as a player, as a person. He's a mercenary, and I think he's got to go as well. Overall, you guys have done well enough to make top four this season. And so as long as your club can carry that mentality into next season, then you will have ended on a positive note. I will say this, bro. There will be nothing better for you guys this season than to knock Inter on Thursday, because if you guys are standing up at the end of the season with the Coppa Italia and all we've got is the Super Coppa, you guys can look at the season and go, you know what? Things didn't go so bad. We go again. So at this point of the season, even though you can justify pros and cons for Juve's season, pros and cons for Inter's season, it's really going to be all about who can go into next season more positively.
Yeah, 100%. And I really respect the fact that even though you dislike a club, it doesn't mean you don't give them the respect that they deserve as a club. Like, I think Inter is an extremely historic club. Just because I don't like them, I don't hate any team in Serie A. I'm a different type of fan where I didn't grow up with a super hot rivalry for those teams because I kind of started enjoying soccer later on in like the 2009s and early 2010s. So I don't really have that history. But I love that you at least show some respect for the club, even though you do not like them, which you don't see from fans a lot. So I like that. But from the Juventus standpoint, I think they need to get away from just trying to buy all their talent. They have a lot of youth talent. They have a ton of youth talent. They're trying to push this youth kind of agenda, then bring in players like Miretti, Rovella, Fagioli. Let them have a chance in the squad because they've been waiting on loans for forever. I think Rovella is ready. I think Fagioli's ready. I think Miretti needs a little bit more time, even though everybody's ready after one match to crown him like the new prince of Juventus. I think Rovella more has paid his dues. I think Fagioli has paid his dues. And Fagioli said it himself. He says, I can't be wasting away in Serie B. These aren't his exact words, but paraphrasing, he can't be wasting away in Serie B, or he said he will leave to a club that will give him the time that he deserves. So kind of ending on that note, I think Juventus, like, turn the switch off in this match. They need to come back to the fino alla fine mentality of old. And I hope next year, if everybody is fully fit, which is a big if, I think this team can, and they add a few more pieces like Sergej Milinkovic-Savic and maybe some other players, maybe they can get back to that level of competing for the Scudetto. We will see. But
the thing is, I like what you've said because there's nobody hungrier than young players that come up through an academy waiting for their opportunity. And it's different if you've just won the league or if you've come first with a team like Conte that's pissed the league with a bunch of athletes. You can't go from having these players and bringing the youth up straight away. So Inter's been doing damage control, band-aid control this season, and we're very lucky to have a director like Marotta who can work with scraps. But I would definitely agree with what you've said. For a club like Juve that's pushed fourth 2 seasons in a row, you're in the perfect opportunity to really bump some of these young players and inject some fresh blood into the squad. And that's really what I think that you guys should do. And next season, if you guys can do that and land 1 or 2 pieces of the puzzle, because I don't think you guys are going to be in the market with 150, 200 million euros. I really don't think anybody, I don't think the Italian market will even total to 250 million euros this time around. But we'll see what happens, man. And in regards to what you said before, it's always important to grant respect if you're somebody who puts the camera in front of your face. If you want to talk an unnecessary amount of shit, we'll leave that to the people on Twitter that have an avatar that's not their face, man.
Exactly. So eloquently said, and I love that sentiment. But yeah, we could talk about Juve all day. We'll have to get you on all Juve cast, and we can hash it out. I would love to talk about Juve with you. But we'll get to the matches you actually alluded to, which were the Salernitana Cagliari and then also the Venezia Bologna match. Let's get to the Venezia match first. This one had everything, man. This had goals, and more goals. 4-3 for Venezia. It was super high pace. Venezia were, they were up and then they were down. And at the end, Jonsson, the young left winger, I believe he's Norwegian.
Yep.
He hit this beautiful, he was kind of on the inside edge of the box. He turns and does as everybody calls it, the tira giro. He curls it back far post, and it was just such a nice finish. And it was, even though Venezia, it seems like they're going to get relegated, I just bought their kit, which I love so much. What do you think their season has been? And, do you think they showed fight near the end of the season now? And even though they're getting relegated, do you see them coming back up maybe next year?
So when you look at the table now at the end of the season and you can see that Venezia, 25 points are still in the running, it's not fair to look at them and go, you've been really, really poor because they're coming last. The fact of the matter is it's match day 37 and they're still in with a fighting chance to survive the drop, which means for me personally, teams like Venezia and Salernitana have had a decent campaign, even if they are going to suffer the drop, unfortunately. The failures of the campaign can only be narrowed down to Cagliari, Genoa, and Sampdoria for me, to be honest, even if Sampdoria survived the drop. Venezia, I love the fact that they won. I do think, unfortunately, they are gonna hit the drop just because at 25 points, they're just that one game too far away. Even if they were to grab 3 points, I believe they've got Cagliari in the next match day, which is going to be an absolute cracker. For me, I'm interested in looking at their squad and seeing how many of those players will remain in top flight football next season by earning a transfer. I don't think the likes of Henry, who has had a fantastic season so far, is going to want to play in Serie B. I'm not too sure if Aramu is going to want to stay in Serie B, but we'll see what happens, man. It was really good to see them get the win. But I think that they're just going to fall short, Cliff, because at 25 points on match day 36, they just might miss out. It could be on head-to-head. It could be on 1 point. They might just miss out, man.
Yeah, 100%. But I will say, like, if you look at this team, and I actually started a FIFA career with them because I love the kids so much. If you look at this team, there's actually some gems on this team. Like Jonsson, I believe he's 19 or 20. He's a really talented left winger. He hasn't produced like insane numbers, but that's also because he's not on a super highly competitive team, like compared to say a mid-table or higher table side. But he could be a player that gets picked off by like maybe a mid-table side, maybe like an Udinese or someone of that nature, maybe a Genoa, Bologna, or something like that. And then you have Nani as well being on the team. Obviously, he's older, but he still has that technical ability and that class in him at moments. And then Ochakareke, I love him. I love him as a winger. He's really, really pacey, really talented, gets up the pitch really, really quick and beats his man every time. And then also you have Busio, the Italian-American, who I'm really high on. I think he's going to be really, really talented in the future if somebody gives him a chance. I could see him staying in the top flight, maybe getting a transfer to maybe a mid-table side. So, if you pick this team apart, which they probably will be if they go down to Serie B, there's going to be some players who I'm going to keep my eye out for. Is there anybody you in particular have your eye on this team?
No, Johnson's a very, very, or Jonsson, sorry if I mispronounced that name. He's a very, very good player. Sort of needs to get a transfer soon because at 24 years of age and coming through the Ajax academy, now's the time for him to earn himself another transfer. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. From the players that we just mentioned, as you said, they can all be good for a mid-table side, but none of the players in Venezia are going to make a big move to a bigger club that's going to challenge for any European spots. Overall, it's still a good season for them, even if they do go down in last place, because the competitive nature of Serie A, albeit not for all the best reasons, it is pretty close. So you can't completely hang it on them for going back down. I will say this though, whoever does go down this season, next season is going to find it much more difficult than the standard season to come back up. The competitive nature of Serie B, if anybody's been following it this season, is nuts. It would not be because I'm pretty sure Crotone are struggling big time as well. They might even be going down to Serie C. So there's an example of a side that 2 seasons ago, Inter secured the Scudetto against Crotone last season on match day 34, I'm pretty sure. And now here they are looking to go down to Serie C. So momentum and psychological momentum is extremely important. And I just feel like if a Venezia or a Salernitana go down to Serie B, they're going to find it very hard to come back up.
100%. And our friends at IFTV who work with Ascoli, they actually, nobody was expecting them to make a run. They're in the playoff right now to make it into Serie A. So that's really, really, it's going to be a very competitive end of the season for that playoff, which I'm really excited to see. I don't know where to watch it, so I probably won't be able to watch it, but I'm excited to see that. And the last match, or not the last match, but one of the other matches that have to do with the relegation, Salernitana Cagliari had a lot of fireworks, not a lot of goals, but it was a crazy match. And Salernitana was up 1-0. I actually was watching the game, and at the last second, I actually go upstairs to get some water, and I come back down, and Cagliari had scored in like the 98th minute or something. And I'm like, What is going on? It was absolutely insane. What was your reaction when you saw that?
A red card each. There was a shout for a penalty for Cagliari towards the end of the game, and then VAR overturned it. And then right scrappy level stuff right at the end to be able to equalize. Cliff, they were down. They were out. And for me personally, I've been saying on my channel for a good year and a half, there are a couple of teams in Serie A that have been mooching top flight football. Cagliari is one of them. If we were to go back down to 18 teams, off the top of my head, the two names I would have rattled off this season are Cagliari and Genoa to piss off. And that's exactly the direction that they were heading in. So I was really gutted when I saw them equalize, because now I'm thinking they've got this extra boost of momentum. And I actually said on Twitter, the silver lining to Inter finishing second this season would be for us to relegate Cagliari on match day 37. Now I'm already getting the PTSD. I'm like, oh crap, I see a sneaky 1-1 on the horizon in Sardinia coming up for Inter. But Cagliari have been really, really disappointing this season. And the model of the club and the way that they've behaved in the transfer market after the past 2 years has been not good. To put it nicely. I don't want to say too many bad things on this channel. So they're almost reaping the consequences of their poor transfer market and poor behavior. You've got to really feel for João Pedro, who has stayed loyal and really stuck strong. He is gone at the end of this season, regardless of whether they survive the drop. João Pedro will be on the move. In regards to Salernitana, I don't know about you, but most people I know are really in their corner to try and stay up, because what was it, 13 points in their last 18 or 14 in their last 18. I think they were last, Cliff, on match day 3 and did not budge from 20th up until match day 32 or something, 33. That's insane. So everybody's kind of in Salernitana's corner to stay up.
Yeah, we really are. And at first I think everybody thought like this team basically by mid-year, they're like, this team's done. They're going to get relegated. I thought that most certainly. And then didn't they make a managing change not too long ago? And that's kind of what sparked this kind of like run of form. Am I wrong about that? Was there a coaching change?
No, there was a coaching change. There was a coaching change around about midway through the season. And ever since then, they've just really played a lot better. There's Federico Bonazzoli has got 9 goals this season. And I still remember subbing him off the bench in FIFA 11 or 12 for Inter with his stats at like a 66 level shooting or something like that. But also Simone Verdi, who was supposed to have a much better career in Serie A considering what happened to him. He's been really good for them this season. He's been one of their more mature players. And just with Frank Ribery stacking up the assists and Juric playing well, it doesn't surprise me that they're still thereabouts. I really thought, regardless of the change of management, just the sheer stature of the club would be too small, like a whole boys versus men thing when it comes to Serie A. But they've really, really proved me wrong. And it's not like they've had to pick up points. Pardon me. It's not like they've only had to pick up points against minnows or crap opposition. You know, they got their point against Atalanta. If I'm not mistaken, they beat, who was it? Fiorentina at home. They went away to Udine and got 3 points. They went away to Sampdoria and got 3 points. They drew to Sassuolo, and these are just the games I can remember. Like, they have picked up good points for a team that has come up from Serie B trying to survive the drop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're rooting for them. They're like from the area that I'm from, my family's from, like in the Campania area. So we're kind of rooting for them. Avellino's not in there, so I have to root for somebody. So Salernitana is my relegation zone. Hopeful that they get out of there, or they're out of there right now, and hopefully they stay up. But let's get into the Milan-Verona match. This one I thought was going to be a trap match for Milan. I thought this was going to be a match where Verona win it like 2-1 on like a last-minute goal. But Milan found a way, 1-0 down. Leao was pivotal. Magnan played a really good match. Didn't Zlatan score as well, if I'm not mistaken?
No, it was actually Florenzi who got the last goal in the 86th minute. Would you bloody believe it?
And then he had his moment where he lifted his arms out and he was like thinking he was the king of the world.
Oh, yeah, that's a Florenzi thing. Remember when we won the Euros and he was the one that went up to his camera? He's like, hi, Mom.
Yeah, I mean, what an exciting game this was. And I want to apologize to Leao because, I mean, he's not going to watch this. But if he does, Leao, I'm sorry that I doubted you. He is I never doubted his talent, but I always thought his work rate was never there. He would never drop back when he would lose the ball. He'd get very down on himself. He would kind of mope. But now this season, I don't know what it is, but he's just been reignited, this passion in him. Like, even when he loses the ball, he drops back, he presses, he does all the right things. And now he's utilizing his pace more. I feel like he used to kind of slow down and slowly dribble up to a player and try to do a move. Now he just, as soon as he gets a guy in front of him, he just zooms by him and uses his pace really well. So I've really loved his development. I think most people are saying he's the player of the season, and it's really hard to argue against that. He's been phenomenal this year. But Anthony, give me your thoughts on this match.
Now, I could be wrong, and I don't want to sound bitter. And to be honest, I hope this doesn't happen because even though I'd like my rivals to weaken, I really don't want Serie A to take any more hits. We are not looking good at the moment, Cliff. Like,
Yeah.
we're probably ranking below the French league and the Portuguese league in
Ah,
terms of
jeez.
entertainment at the moment. It's bad. So I do think that there was a situation this season where Rafael Leao went in to talk about his contract, and there were a lot of whispers that he is in demand, and I think he is in high demand, and I think that Maldini might be looking to cash in on this dude because I think his market value has absolutely skyrocketed this season. They bought him for about 33, 35 million. This guy's going for 70 minimum at the
Yeah.
moment. If there is one player to kick that revolution in the right direction, it's that. Now, some people might say, hold up. You don't sell your best players. You don't do this. You don't do that. Trust me, take it from someone who lost Lukaku, Conte, Hakimi, Pintus, and Oriali all in the same window. If there is going to be a domino that falls, it is going to be a large asset in Serie A at the moment. Inter fans already need to start working up the courage and realize that Martinez could be going in the market. For me personally, if he's the one that sacrificed, it's fine. I'll get over it. The same thing could happen with Milan and Leao. And this is a credit to him and his season because there will be clubs like Paris, like Bayern, like Real, like Barca that ask for this guy's signature because he has it. Like you said, he is talent oozing right at the core. Pioli has managed him very well this season to be able to find that middle ground between you only like to attack and you don't like to drop back. Oh, well, that's fine. We're going to make you drop back just a little bit more and find the holes. Look for the lazy defenders. Look for the line that moves up 1 extra meter and look at all the space the guy has. You cannot guard this guy at all. When he comes at you with the ball, he is everything that Joaquin Correa is supposed to be for Inter and more. He's just unbelievable. And I think he could be the domino that falls for Milan. But either way, if they do go on to win the title this season, that guy will be crowned the player of their season because he has just been so good. The way that he dribbled in and set up Tonali for that second goal, can't complain about anything like that. As I said a few weeks ago on my channel, and this was when Milan still had to play. This is just after they drew to Genoa, I think it was. I said, if Milan can go on and win their last 5 games in a row, we just got to hold our hands up and say, hey, mad respect, man. Good for you guys.
100%. Leao is super talented. I hope he doesn't leave just because I don't want to lose another talent. I'd be willing to have Lautaro be the sacrificial lamb. No offense to Lautaro, but I don't think I think he's a little bit of a poser. I think he's these moments where he just plays so out of his mind, and then he's so cold. Like, he's so streaky. He's just not that consistent player that Leao has been this season.
Yeah.
And like we said, there's been kind of this changing of the guard in Serie A. Lukaku left, Ronaldo left, a lot of good players left.
Yep.
But you do have guys like Chiesa, De Ligt is still here, Vlahovic, Leao. I really hope they keep Leao at least for another 2 seasons before he makes a move, just so that kind of the next wave of young talent develops through Serie A. So if he does leave, there's plenty of other talents to kind of fill in that void.
Yeah.
But I think that was a really interesting match and really good kind of description from your end. And I want to get to kind of the last match that's actually happening right now. We have Fiorentina up 2-0 in the 85th minute on Roma. And the first goal was a very, very, very weak penalty in my opinion. Nico Gonzalez going towards goal, and he was just getting mauled by, I think it was Mancini or Dolberg, I forget which one. And then right on the edge of the box, he was starting to fall down, and then he gets like a kick in the shin. I thought it was a very light kick. I didn't think he got smashed in the shin, but they called it. They did a VAR review. They called it a penalty. I think Serie A has a real problem with calling a lot of these light penalties in the box because they said it actually on CBS on Paramount Plus that they have this issue in Serie A where they call these weak penalties that they don't give in like Prem or Champions League and all these other leagues. So Serie A needs to change this. They need to not allow these weak penalties to be given. But nonetheless, Nico Gonzalez slots it away beautifully. Great penalty. The second goal, Jack Bonaventura takes his man on one-on-one, just starts doing this little dinky dribbling closer to him, and then cuts in, left foot, back corner, easy as you like. And, 2-0. And that is the score as of right now. This game is almost finished up. And as it stands in the table, we have Fiorentina, Atalanta, and Roma tied on points for 6th, 7th, and 8th place. or for, I guess, for sixth place, they would be tied on the points. I mean, dude, how crazy is that? Like, this is going to really come down to the wire. I personally think Lazio is going to drop points, and they're going to end up crashing out, and Roma and Fiorentina are going to hop up into that fifth and sixth place. But give me your thoughts on Fiorentina and Roma right now.
Well, as you said, like the VAR in Italy needs to do something about this whole, oh, there's contact, so blow a penalty. And I can tell you right now, it's Tuesday morning here in Italy. This game on Thursday morning between Inter and Juve, this is going to be decided by bullshit decisions. I hope every Juve and Inter fan is preparing for the fact that this is not going to be a clean game. Remember in the last 5 minutes, no offense, you guys basically going to ground for everything in the last 4 minutes. We're going to do that. We are going to adopt the Allegri model as well. And this is going to be a flop of a Coppa Italia final. And why not? That's just playing smart. If that's the system, you need to rig the system back. At the end of the day, man, this is a big problem in Italy. The penalties are way too soft. They are giving them for a blow of wind. And the problem when you slow everything down in super, super slow motion, and the technology in Italy actually isn't up to scratch to handle those super slow motions, things genuinely look fuzzy. I don't know what year we're living in at the moment, Cliff, but when I watch the La Liga and the Bundesliga and the Premier League, and I look at the way that they're refereeing and the technology, I'm like, man, Serie A is 5 years behind this at least. We've got a big problem with the use of VAR and technology, and I'm ready to hold my hand up and go, you know what? Inter has received at least 3 or 4 calls this year that should not have been given to us. At the same time, I've gone back and watched other teams, and you could make that argument for everybody. Roma has been shoved with bad decisions. They've got some good ones. Milan has been shoved with some horrible decisions. They've got some good ones. This is a universal problem in the country, and it needs to be solved ASAP. Nico Gonzalez has had a good year for Fiorentina. A lot of the players for Fiorentina have had a really, really good year, especially since Vlahovic has departed. It's good to see them still fighting for that last European spot. I think they'll make the last day of the season very difficult for Juve. I'm happy that they beat Roma this morning because it still gives Atalanta to play for something against Milan next week. But if you want my opinion, I actually think Lazio will go into the Europa League in 5th position and Fiorentina take 6th this season.
That's depressing. I personally don't want to see Lazio in top 6, but, let the chips fall where they may. But the bottom line for the reffing, it needs to be consistent. There needs to be consistency. But this game, I think, just went, nope, it's still 88th minute, so we're getting there. But that was great analysis from you. And let's hope the refereeing gets a little bit better next season and we get less 1990s coverage on the rewinds, because
I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of everybody fighting over things that we can't control. Like, let's go back to the days where we could genuinely banter each other because my team was better than yours, not because you got this call and you got that call. It's bloody exhausting.
It really is. It really is. But on that note, that's it for our show. I want to thank Anthony so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. It is like, 2 a.m. in the morning for you in Australia or whatever it is?
Not that bad. It's about 6:30 a.m. at the moment, but that's all good. This is where I've got my most energy. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I'm going to ask you to do one favor for me. Your big Don, Berto, still owes me 2 nice tweets about Inter. The guy came on my channel and had the audacity to wager me, and he's like, oh, say 3 nice things about Juve when we win. Brother, I am still waiting for 66.6% of those tweets. So I'm coming to collect, Berto. Don't get me wrong.
Al, you heard it here first. He's calling you out. Let's get those tweets drafted up right now and sent out.
I'm getting in early because I'm just packing shit for this Coppa Italia game, man.
I love it, man. I'm really excited. You guys can catch that. Is that on Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday morning, 5 a.m. for us in Australia. So it's probably about an 8 p.m. kickoff for you guys, maybe?
I think it's actually 3. I think it's 3 for us.
Nice
3 o'clock for that match. But yeah, guys, check it out. And also follow Anthony's channel, Inter Worldwide. He does amazing work on Inter. But yeah, thank you, man, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody enjoy their day. Enjoy the nicer weather. It seems like it's starting to get warm. So everybody take it easy and have a good one.